Hello folks, I'm Dean with Dean's Woodworking. Y'all come on in and make yourself comfortable. Today we're going to not do any turning. However, I will show you an example of a turning using the tool we're getting ready to make. That's right, we're going to make a tool. We're going to make an ultra thin parting tool out of a knife. This is an ultra thin parting tool that I made from a knife some time ago. Never really thought much about it. Once I was asked to do a video on it, I was a little bit hesitant to do a video because really all I did was grab a knife that was here in the shop, grind the tip off of it, knock off the sharp edge, and I've had an ultra thin parting tool ever since. Now, let me caution you folks before we get going too very far on this. This is not a parting tool that you're going to run in 2 or 3 inches and part something off. This is for doing lines, decorative. I would say if you go in past about a 1/2 inch on the cut on this, you're really taking your chances, and I would not consider that safe. Because this is not made out of high-speed steel or any of the normal turning steels that you would think. It is a knife, just like you've got in your kitchen. However, let me talk to you about what I ran into when I started looking for a knife to do this video, okay? Now, this particular knife that I used to make the parting tool, remember, this is just one that was laying around the shop. You guys can see that it's 29 thousandths of an inch thick. Okay, just to give you a comparison, my thin parting tool, 58 thousandths. Well, that's saying 57.5 thousandths thick. And then your standard 1/8 inch parting tool, 131 thousandths thick. So when we start talking about literally 27, 28 thousandths, that's showing 26 now, you're getting pretty thin. Well, my first thought was I'll just run into the kitchen, grab some knives that we don't use anymore, and I'll make a quick video on those. Here's what I ran into. If you see on this little steak knife how it tapers down from right here, so this is about the same thickness up here, but it tapers down pretty fast, so it doesn't give you much of a cutting edge. Now, even on that, we're looking at a thickness of 42 thousandths. So considerably thicker than the one I had. Well, not to give up there, we've got another one here. It's got a little wider flat area, so we could grind that off. We've got plenty of flat area to work with there. However, how thick is it? 67.5 thousandths. Now remember, just the one I bought is 57, so that's 10 thousandths thicker than a thin. That doesn't really qualify as being ultra thin. I went to several resale shops, Goodwill. Goodwill was the fun one. I went into one, I couldn't find any knives, so I thought, well, you know, maybe they just don't have any at this one. So I went to the next one, couldn't find any. I asked, they said, oh no, we don't have knives in here. Okay. So I went to one more thinking, okay, well maybe that was just that one. And you'd have thought I asked for a machine gun. They let me know under no uncertain terms that they did not sell weapons at the Goodwill. You know, I'm thinking steak knife, they're thinking weapon, two different things there. But anyway, I did finally find a resale shop that had some knives in it. This is one that, you know, It's 35 thousandths thick, so the thickness is not bad. The blade is fairly straight from top to bottom. It doesn't have a whole lot of taper to it. And that's important because you don't want your the top of your knife to be thicker than your cutting edge, or you start to bind. Then I found this one. And I like it. It's a little bit longer. And I think it's the one I'm going to use today. Hopefully you folks can see that. It's 32 thousandths thick. It has a fairly straight sides on it with just a very little taper. And that taper really starts about right here. So that still gives us plenty of room for the cutting edge. And so why did I go through all of that? Well, like I said, in the very beginning, I thought, this is no big deal. Just grab a steak knife, do what you did last time, grind the tip on it, knock off the sharp edge. You have an ultra thin parting tool. Little did I realize that most of the steak knives that we run into are a whole lot thicker than what I was thinking and what I've been using. And I didn't want to leave you guys out there going, oh, well, I'll just run down to the local resale shop, pick me up a knife. By the way, this was 70 cents. Pretty cheap for a parting tool. But I didn't want you to pick up a knife, bring it home, do it, and go, well, geez, I've got a thin parting tool already that's actually thinner than that. So a lot of wasted effort there. Let's go ahead and I'll show you exactly what I do to make this work. Now this one's a lot longer than my original one. And my first thought was, well, I'll go ahead and grind that off and cut it off. And then I got to thinking, why? It just means it's going to last that much longer and I can sharpen it that many more times. And bear in mind, we're not dealing with high-speed steel. We're not dealing with M42 or some powdered metal or something like that. This is just stainless steel. It's fairly soft. You're going to have to sharpen it fairly often. Again, it sharpens pretty quick. You know, you're not doing a tremendous amount of cuts with it, but I figure that one will probably last me the rest of my life. One caution, and I'm not real sure, some of you guys are a whole lot smarter than me when it comes to CBN wheels, since I've gotten mine recently but haven't even gotten them on the grinder yet. But if I had a CBN wheel, I would really double check as to what grinding stainless steel metal on that's going to do. I know from what I've heard that you should never grind carbon steel on it, but I would just leave it up to you to make sure you're not doing something to harm your CBN wheels if you do have CBN. If you've still got the old rock wheels like I've still got on this one, hopefully by next week they won't be on there anymore, but right now they are. So I figured I would take advantage of that and go ahead and get this made for you folks. So let's turn around to the grinder and I'll show you exactly what I do, okay? I'm not putting any kind of real pressure on this. I'm just trying to knock that edge off. You just don't want something sharp when you're in there trying to turn that. Okay, so that's knocked the edge off. What I will do is I will come in with some sandpaper and I will knock that burr off so there's nothing there that's going to cut me so it's dull at this point, pretty much the same as the top. Okay, again, be very careful with that. I don't want anybody getting hurt by anything that I showed you guys how to do. Okay, once we have done that, we're going to change the angle here. Okay, so that's basically got it set right there where we want it on that one. And that's our bottom angle, okay? This top angle really makes no difference. So we're gonna go ahead and start it back up. Again, I wouldn't stay in one spot. Go side to side on your grind there, because you don't want to dig in and cut into your wheel. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to bring this up so that the tip or the cutting tip is in the flat part of that knife. Some of you may be asking why. Well, remember, down here at the bottom is a little bit thinner than it is up here. You don't want to take a thinner cut and then push this on in and have it pinch on that up there, okay? Now, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to bring this angle back a little bit. Okay, folks, as you can see here, I've got a very thin parting tool. Okay, one of the things that I would caution you, when you're using this, remember, it is ultra thin for a parting tool, okay? And ultimately, you are responsible for your own safety. Don't make deep cuts. And don't have the tool rest very far from your workpiece when you're using this. Just a couple of safety tips. I am going to go ahead and make a cut in this little piece of wood here just so you can see what I'm talking about and how I would use this. You can come in and just make a light cut. That's great for a burn line. You can come in and make a little deeper cut. Again, these are great when you're doing the Christmas trees and such. As a matter of fact, I will add a short clip from the tree ornament using this particular parting tool, so you folks can see exactly what I'm talking about. And we're going to do just very little parting cuts. We're going to come about every 1/8 of an inch. We're going to come in about the same distance on each one. As you get down the tree, you can increase the size of each one of those cuts. And see, it's not a real big deal if you get one a little closer to the other one, because guess what? Trees are not actually uniform, folks. So one limb may actually grow a little closer to the other. And that would be what we call nature. Now let's take a look at that. After doing a few ornaments and things where I used the ultra thin parting tool, I got so many requests to do a video on it. And again, I was hesitant to do that. Like so many things, when you start trying to teach someone else how to do it, folks, I think I learned more about the ultra thin parting tool doing this video or preparing to do this video than what you will learn. But I'm so glad that when I asked if anybody wanted to see that so many of you said yes, because it made me look into it a little bit more. And like I say, mine was just from a knife laying here in the shop, and I just happened to get lucky. Unfortunately, you folks may have to do a little bit more looking to find a knife that'll really work and that'll function right for you. Avoid the knives that have a quick taper on it, because you don't want your point cutting and then something behind that being thicker than the point. That point needs to be the thickest part. Be careful when you're using these. Your safety is your own responsibility, and I can't control what happens in your shop any more than you can control what happens in mine. So please be careful. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and happy turning.